Hello and welcome to Atop the Fourth Wall, where bad comics burn, and the final week of this year's Secret Origins month. And thus we end on the origin that's the most timely, seeing as Thor the Dark World, aka Thor the Somewhat Poorly Lit World, just came out a few weeks ago. So Stan Lee and the Marvel staff had been doing pretty well for themselves in 1962. They'd created several successful superheroes by that point, including the Hulk, the Fantastic Four, and possibly Spider-Man. Stan Lee's recounting of the creation of Thor mentions Spider-Man as a previous success, but according to Wikipedia, Thor and Spider-Man premiered in the same month, so make of that what you will. The point is that they had made several successful superheroes, and they were challenging themselves to make bigger and stronger heroes all the time. The problem is that by that point, where was there to go? The only one who could top the heroes we already had would be Super-God, but I didn't think the world was quite ready for that concept just yet. Indeed, we had to wait for Grant Morrison before that became a thing. While Lee was trying to come up with new heroes, he apparently kept going back to the Super-God idea. Apparently he had done a radio interview where Marvel stories were, for the first time, referred to as a 20th century mythology, and that's where he finally realized what he could do with the idea. He felt that his readers were probably pretty familiar with Greek and Roman mythology, so tapping that well wasn't going to capture people's interest. Instead, he drew upon Norse mythology, with flowing beards and horned helmets, the whole Viking look that, of course, is not based on the actual historical Vikings. Because when have superhero comics ever let anything like reality get in the way of telling a good story, eh? And naturally, with Lee's workload at the time, he handed off his outline about the character to his brother Larry Lieber to put a shot in the arm in the anthology book Journey into Mystery, and naturally, Jack Kirby was tapped to do artwork. By this point, Jack Kirby was essentially a robot with a keyboard in the back of his head that you punched superhero concepts into, and he'd have a finished comic for you in a week. And that's pretty much it. This version of Thor has survived crappy costumes, crappy adaptations and backdoor pilots, Ragnarok itself, and gave Tony Stark the most epic of beatdowns in the wake of the Civil War event from a few years ago. Good times. Verily. So let's dig into Journey into Mystery number 83 and see if we be worthy to behold the origin of Thor.
Touch this. You can't touch this. You can't touch this.
The cover, naturally, is covered in text to grab the reader, and yet manages to show everything we need to show about Thor. Like how he apparently has some kind of giant dotted ring around him that repels green rock people that are popping out of a spaceship. Okay, apparently I spoke a little too soon last week when I said that this comic had nothing to do with science fiction. Introducing the Mighty Thor! I've really grown to love adjective titles for comic books. Uncanny X-Men, Mighty Thor, Amazing Spider-Man. I need one of those. Could we try a little harder on that? We'll work on it. The most exciting superhero of all time. More exciting than Neutro? More exciting than US-1? Surely you jest, comic. We open with Thor standing and holding his hammer out at us, which seems to be emitting green energy waves everywhere. Wait a second. Thor's hammer is a Green Lantern battery? I also love how Thor's outfit has a big wrestling championship belt with a T on it, even though he's supposed to be, you know, not using an English alphabet. The legend has come true. By the will of the gods, I am alive. I am invincible. I am Thor! Well, that was a quick origin. And to shake things up from the standard Gold and Silver Age first splash page and then on with the story, we have 2 panels on said splash page to actually start things off. Our story opens on the windy coast of Norway, where we see a frail figure silhouetted against the bleak sky. Or silhouetted against the Purple Mountain's majesty, as we see in the panel. He is Dr. Don Blake, an American vacationing in Europe. His life was forever immortalized in National Lampoon's European Vacation. And as Dr. Blake turns and leaves the site, he doesn't see the strange alien spaceship which silently lands behind him. Dr. Blake unknowingly got the UFO ending in Silent Hill Thor Edition. Boy, is he in for a surprise. 2 principals in a grim pageant, neither one noticing the other. Oh, yeah, this is the grimmest and darkest of plays before us. What with these adorably goofy aliens? Revel in the despair, my friends! But how different would things be if they were to meet at this moment? How different would be the future of all mankind? It turns out that the aliens were looking for a proctologist of Dr. Blake's talents. But ours is a drama decreed by the fates to be acted out. Nothing can stop it!
When suddenly, the animator suffered a fatal heart attack.
Ah, at last, we are on Earth! At last! Now where the hell is the Denny's? I'm starving! The aliens discuss how, now that they're on Earth, their strength is multiplied thanks to the different atmosphere. And it's only natural that since they evolved on a planet that was a gas giant without a defined surface, that they're... rock monsters.
Of course! Don't you know anything about science?
Now watch as I prove the invulnerability of our stone bodies! Oh please, give me a grass or fighting type Pokemon and I will end you! Without the slightest hesitation, I jump, for I know that nothing on this puny earth can harm me! Oh god, my legs have shattered into pebbles! This was a mistake! As the aliens also test out their weaponry, an old man spots them from behind some rocks. By the beard of Odin, what have I stumbled onto? That's something I've never understood. Why do people swear by Odin's beard? Was there nothing else interesting about the guy? It'd be like me proclaiming, by Stan Lee's mustache! The old man runs to the village to warn them, but naturally nobody believes the crazy old man rambling about rockmen from outer space. Except for Donald Blake. It sounds fantastic, and yet the man doesn't appear mad. Except for that outfit. You'd have to be cray-cray to mix red and purple this season. The next day, he decides to investigate on his own, and he stumbles upon the rock creatures just as they proclaim that they need to kill anyone who discovers them. Kind of hard to conduct an open invasion when no one's allowed to notice you doing it, isn't it? And naturally, Donald Blake steps on a twig, which alerts them to his presence. He manages to run up a mountain, but he trips and drops his cane. Yeah, poor Donald Blake has a bit of a limp, which probably explains why he can't outrun the guys made out of rocks. However, he discovers a cave that he hopes to hide himself in, and looks for another exit to it to try to get away. He finds another exit, but it's blocked by a massive boulder that he can't move. I would say that he needs another gym badge in order to use Hidden Machine 4 Strength, but after that last one, I think I've used up all my allotted Pokemon jokes for the year. The cave is so dank, so gloomy, and airless, which is why I'm talking a lot. Talking will preserve the air.
Didn't you use up the air on Comic Run 1 while doing a review only a few weeks ago?
Yeah, but you see, the difference there is shut up. However, as he's leaning against a wall, it, apparently opens. I'm not entirely sure how. Blake says that it opens when he leaned against the wall like he had hit a secret lever, but the door is opening out and he was sitting on the ground. So does that mean the thing was pushing against him? He heads inside and discovers a secret chamber, and I just noticed how well lit this cave is. I guess the aliens made sure to put in some fluorescent lights in between testing out how strong they were in Earth's gravity. Inside of the chamber, Blake finds nothing but a gnarled wooden stick on a pedestal. Yeah, it's not magical or anything. Indiana Jones just swapped out the real staff with that a few years ago. He figures that the stick can be used as a lever to move the boulder, though considering it's described as gnarled, I'm not exactly sure how it's going to work without just snapping in half or something. Not that it makes any difference, since he tries to use the stick like that and it fails. In helpless anger, Don Blake strikes the useless cane against the immovable boulder. As the narrator, I cannot stress enough how utterly useless this situation is.
We'll be right back in a moment. Maybe. We'll see. And we're back. Good times.
But striking the boulder with the cane causes lightning bolts to flash, and a nice bit of Kirby crackle consumes Blake. The cave is bathed in blinding light, like a fiery bolt of lightning, and the ancient cane, it's changing shape! It's becoming... a toothbrush? The hell? And I'm changing too! Can this really be happening? Or am I going mad? I suddenly feel the urge to narrate to myself. But what happened to the actual narrator? Was he ever there at all? My God, I am going mad! No, it isn't mad! Good, I never liked that magazine anyway! I can feel my body bursting with power. Power such as I've never known! I shall rule the world! The cane, it has become a mighty hammer, and I have been transformed into Liberace! Wait! There are words inscribed on the hammer! Stop! Hammer time! And indeed, written in plain English, and in comic book lettering no less, are these words. Whosoever holds this hammer, if he be worthy, shall possess the power of Thor. If he be not worthy, he be prepared to pay a fine of no less than 500 gold pieces to the Asgardian Revenue Service. Thor, the legendary god of thunder, the mightiest warrior of all mythology! Man, Lancelot, Hercules, and the goddess Andraste are gonna be pissed off when they hear that. This is his hammer! And from the looks of it, it seems to have a major radon gas leak, dude. Might want to get that looked at. A few moments ago, I couldn't even budge this boulder. But now oh, forget it. Thing's wedged in there pretty good. I need the jaws of life or something. I can lift it as if it were cardboard. The mighty Thor, god of lifting rocks. He seals the cave again after he escapes, figuring that the stone aliens won't suspect that someone as frail as he was would be able to get through there. Then again, the aliens are really taking their sweet-ass time about this. Although, they are rock creatures.
You know, I think you'd have a better chance of being overtaken by an actual rock.
But what happens now? Do I walk amidst the civilized world as a mythological god? I don't know, seems to work pretty well for Tom Hiddleston. He sits down to think about this whole thing. Thor, the god of thunder. What do I remember of him from my school days? Well, I remember he was supposed to have red hair and a red beard. He was the noblest and strongest of all the Norse gods.
This drink, I like it.
I know, it's great, right?
Another!
The fourth day of the week, Thursday, was named in his honor. Yes, in his honor, which is why we call him Thur, god of thunder. Thor is engulfed in Kirby crackle again. What's happening to me? I'm changing again. Oh, don't worry about it, Thor. That happens to everybody when they're growing up. I'm back to normal once more. But how? What caused it? And how do I suddenly have a blue hat when I didn't before? Reading the inscription again, Blake figures he knows the answer. So that's it! I must continually hold the hammer to retain Thor's strength. If I let go of it, in about 60 seconds, I revert back to my normal self. Oh, yeah, that makes perfect sense. Except, of course, this panel right before you change back shows you still holding the hammer.
Great continuity!
He remembers more about the hammer, not named Mjolnir in the story, just the hammer, and how, if he threw it, it would return to him like a boomerang. Also, the hammer is invincible! Nothing can resist it! Nothing! And nothing else can break a tree in half! It must be invincible! He tests his powers out some more, like being able to create rain or snow, which I don't think is often utilized in comics, come to think of it, plus being able to expand such storms into tornadoes. More testing shows that stamping the handle of the hammer on the ground once will revert him back to Donald Blake, and the hammer becoming a cane again as a disguise. Convenient! And with that out of the way, he heads off to warn people about the aliens. Speaking of, a group of jets head out to attack the alien spaceship, because I guess they just know about them now. But the aliens create the image of a giant dragon right in front of the jets. As a result, the pilots bail out of the jets, thinking they're going to crash into it otherwise. After the image fades, missiles are launched, but are ineffective against the aliens' atomic force fields. The Earthlings have nothing that can keep us from descending upon them! Nothing!
Who is to prevent me?
A halfway smart guy with muscles and hair?
Spotting the failure of the Air Force to take out the aliens, Blake takes matters into his own hands. But perhaps what 20th century science can't do, the God of Thunder can! I mean, if it was 21st century science, they may have stood a chance, but 20th? Pfft, ha! Step aside, mortals, and let a god handle this. Thor can't fly, but he figures on an alternate method of transportation, twirling his hammer around and then throwing it while hanging onto the strap at the end of it. There, I release my whirling hammer for a split second, catching the unbreakable thong. Ha! Thong. And then, I am pulled along after it like the tail of a rocket, and dislocating my shoulder in the process. I should also mention that, being a Silver Age comic, the story has been divided into parts, and we've just entered Part 3, Thor the Mighty Strikes Back. Personally, though, I'm just waiting out for Part 4, Return of the Thordai. The aliens spot Thor approaching and decide to capture him since, well, a human flying through the air like that warrants a bit of investigation. Unfortunately for them, Thor is able to whip the hammer around and, judging from the debris around the aliens, is smashing them to pieces, probably mortally wounding them. However, he is directly beneath their captive cage, and they drop said cage down on him. Fortunately, Thor easily bends the metal of the cage. Iron bars do not a prison make! Real prisons are made with see-through force field technology. Haven't you things seen my latest movie at all? Realizing that he's too powerful to be kept alive, the aliens aim their weapons to disintegrate him. However, Thor tosses his hammer at them, somehow managing to hit all their guns out of their hands. The aliens have a final resort to try to stop Thor. The Meccano Monster! I miss Neutro. That monstrosity looks like it has everything in its favor. It even has chiseled good looks. Better than mine! Everything except the Hammer of Thor!
The hammer is my penis.
And with one swing, the Meccano Monster is smashed to pieces. The human is too mighty, too skilled in the art of battle. He knows how to use a hammer. I always knew carpentry would be our downfall. And since they don't know how many more like him there are, the aliens beat a hasty retreat. I've beaten them. I have proven that the power of the hammer and the might of the Thunder God are invincible. Nothing can conquer Thor. Nothing! Suck it, Ragnarok! Thor spots some soldiers nearby. If I remain here, they'll question me. They won't rest till they've learned my secret. I'll become an international curiosity. I'd better go and join a high-profile team of superheroes to avoid that. And so he turns back into Donald Blake and walks off, the soldiers wondering what convinced the aliens to flee. And so our comic ends with the lesser-known stuff written on Thor's hammer. The editor's note. Thor, because poor literacy is really unexpected here when every other time the name is spelled it's only with one R. Thorerer the Mighty, the greatest new superhero of all time. I am confused by that sentence. He's only the greatest superhero among new superheroes? Will appear regularly in Journey into Mystery, which just raises the question of what the hell the mystery was in this story. This origin story is really damn enjoyable. A lot of people who are only familiar with the Marvel Cinematic Universe are probably scratching their heads about Thor having a secret identity, or that he was someone transformed into instead of just being the god traveling to Earth, but that's a story for another day. Needless to say, his Donald Blake identity was not around forever. Anyway though, the story is really damn fun. You've got a normal guy stumbling upon an alien invasion and then the power to do something about it. He's pretty smart, he gets to smash up a robot, it's awesome superhero action, and very simple in its execution, with great Jack Kirby artwork to boot. And so Secret Origins Month passes us once again. Next week we begin the Christmas season. And oh boy, Christmas this year is gonna be weirder than anything the Silver Age had to offer. Let's see what else is written on the Hammer of Thor. For a good time, call Freya. Over here. Your ad here. And along the handle in crayon is written, property of Loki and not Thor.